Everyone. I'm David. I'm from the Chrome and Chrome OS team at Google, and I've been working on our screen reader solution for Chrome OS for a few years now. I wanted to talk and give a brief summary of where we've been historically and kind of the new things we've been doing, and give a few demos of the new things, plus some of the older features that we think are cool in the past few years. So ChromeVox is a Google Chrome extension. It was sort of born out of the idea that we could take build a screen reader using web technologies. So taking the idea of if any of you have heard of Content Script or something like Grease Monkey for Firefox. So basically taking some code and running it in the context of a web page. And surprisingly, that gets you really far. So you can be in a page like google.com and use APIs that are available to all web authors and build an entire screen reader that's pretty much full-featured, just on its own, using existing web technologies. So some of the stuff we've been able to do are implement keyboard support. So if you press something like Command and Control on a Mac and the arrow keys, we can know when that happens by listening for key down events. We've been able to do things like look at the style of a page of a specific node to figure out different attributes on the visual attributes of a page and perhaps read them out. We've been able to do features that are pretty typical of screen readers, like skipping to headers and links. And the only piece that we really missed at the time, I think, was text-to-speech and Braille. So with the Chrome extension system, we were able to kind of extend things a little bit and add a few APIs that were missing and get this thing going. So ChromeVox, I think, first started in around 2011 and really hit kind of a mature state at around 2013 or so. So we run cross-platform as a Chrome extension on Windows, Mac, Linux, and Chrome OS. And that's sort of the state we've been in for a while now, up to date. And over the years, we've kind of added really neat features like Braille support on Chrome OS. We've added the ability to read math on Wikipedia and any site that supports MathJax. And we've also, I think we're the first screen reader to actually be able to work with Docs, Google Docs. All right, so kind of what's new in Chrome. I have here in front of me a Chromebook Pixel, and I'd like to, instead of talking more, I'd like to show a few features that I think are kind of neat and perhaps unique to ChromeVox, and that might be of interest to everybody, including developers who want to try out a screen reader. So on this Chromebook specifically, we've made it possible to toggle it on and off since it's built in, and that's just by using Control-Alt-Z and turn up the volume a little bit.
ChromeVox spoken feedback is ready.
And you heard a sound icon. So we use a lot of sound icons to provide feedback. So each of those usually represents some significance in the user interface, like turning on ChromeVox or the fact that you've landed on a button.
Status tray, sign out button.
So something like that. And we also announce the actual text of the button, and yeah, we say that it's a button just to um, not be confusing. The ChromeVox, like many other screen readers, you use a set of modifier keys and issue lots of keyboard commands. So our modifier keys plus arrow keys moves you basically around the screen. And so I can move really quickly back and forth across what we call the shelf or the system tray.
This device is US access connected to NYPL button.
So I can kind of move through all of these controls just by using the modifier keys and
SMS and stop button.
And I have the speech rate at a pretty comfortable clip, and most users have kind of this or a little bit faster even. So
window image.
And let's see. So some of the interesting features we have in ChromeVox are more tailored towards navigating the complicated world of the web. So I can go to chromevox.com and show you some of those now.
Get started.
So I'm in the location bar and I'm going to type
CHROE selected EM ARE unselect B dots M image upgrade image add people in ChromeVox.
And I've been using a very handy key, the control key, which silences speech. And so now I'm on chromevox.com, and I can navigate as I did in the Chrome of Chrome or the system tray, and just use arrow keys to navigate.
ChromeVox is the following or ChromeVox user guide heading 1.
And there you heard something that we also do, which is to kind of change the pitch of the control or of the text based on certain hints that we get. So that was the label of the control, and we vary the pitch for some of those controls. And we also do that for states, certain states and roles. You also have the ability to do a continuous read, which is ChromeVox modifier keys plus R, and it'll just start reading off the entire screen. So one interesting thing we've added in the past year or so is the ability to use Chromebooks that have touch on the screen and take your finger and just slide it around the screen. So I'll show that.
ChromeVox is a screen reader. ChromeVox. Learn how to get up and running with ChromeVox on.
And I'm just dragging my finger around the screen, and it's reading whatever is underneath my finger. So very similar to a lot of other mobile devices, but you have a much bigger screen here, so you can really get a good feel of the layout. So if I touch at the top,
tab list, group, tab list.
I can understand that something called the tab list is at the top. And if I touch at the bottom left,
shelf, toolbar, Google Chrome button.
I know that the shelf, something called the shelf, is at the bottom, and it really gives you kind of a new way of understanding layout as a screen reader user that we really haven't had in the past before. Peter, do you have any features you want to show off?
Yeah, I could show. There's actually one interesting feature. So before I start doing that, I'm going to tell you that my name is Peter Lundblad. I'm working out of the office, the Google office in Stockholm, in Sweden, but I'm visiting New York for a few weeks now. So, and I'm also, like David, I'm working on the Chrome operating system, ChromeVox, and I've been working on Braille support and also on the text-to-speech support. One interesting feature with the touch screen that we added was, so as you hear when we approach the edge here,
ChromeVox user guide. ChromeVox is a screen reader for Chrome which brings the speed, versatility, and security of Chrome to visually.
you can actually hear that there is different sound icons for doing that. If I now approach the right edge though,
ChromeVox is available as an extend 7% volume slider.
it allows me to adjust the volume just by dragging on the right side of the screen. And I think that's pretty cool. That's actually using the touchscreen for something more than it was, just exploring. So another thing you can do on the touchscreen instead of moving around is to actually swipe.
The box accessibility list with 2 items, list item, installing.
So here we are entering a list, and then I continue to swipe right. So this is similar to how you do it on a mobile device.
ChromeVox is an extend list item, enabling ChromeVox. Learn how to get up and running with ChromeVox on 96%.
So I'm going to adjust the volume a little bit. And if I found something to click on,
using ChromeVox, heading 2.
So there is a heading.
List with 4 items. This tutorial is.
I could also double tap the screen to actually click. So this is in addition to the keyboard commands. Now, it depends on what kind of device you are using. I don't know if you've heard about these newer devices where you can actually turn it around, and this is not one of them, but there is devices where you can totally turn the screen 360 degrees, and then you get rid of the keyboard basically, and more or less get something that looks a little bit like a tablet. So, talking more about navigation, we have some interesting commands. So, for example, in ChromeVox there is a feature that's something like we call search as you type, or incremental search, depending on what you want to call it. So if I press the modifier key and slash,
find in page, enter a search query.
Now I can just be typing and jump directly to that item. So say I wanted to look for navigation.
This tutorial is intent list item NAV negating with ChromeVox link heading 3. Press
Navigating with ChromeVox. So that I could just by typing a few letters just jump directly to navigating with ChromeVox. I can press enter to dismiss this search widget.
Exited. Find in page list item navigating with ChromeVox link heading 3.
And now as you hear, I'm on the link.
Navigating with ChromeVox.
And I can just hit enter to go to that link. If I wanted to look at the headers of the page, I would just press modifier keys and issue other commands.
Navigating with ChromeVox heading 1. Basic navigation heading 2.
If I wanted to know more about basic navigation, I would just hold down the modifiers and press down arrow.
The browser chimes when a page has finished loading and is ready for you to navigate.
Okay, that's how ChromeVox works. So those are some of the ChromeVox features, both including touch and keyboard navigation. And I think now David is going to tell you a little bit more about what's coming next.
And you've heard a lot about a lot of what we've been able to do, which has been really great. We've been able to implement just about every feature that we really wanted. There were some lessons that we learned with injecting a content script. So we've run into some really fundamental issues. Part of them is that on any given page, we're actually running kind of a separate instance of ChromeVox within each iframe. So it's bottom line is technically it became very challenging to support this type of model and really get stability to a point where we were happy with it. So it kind of manifested itself into issues where navigation would get stuck sometimes, and if you issued a command to read the page continuously, it would just not finish and loop around forever. So those were issues that we really just couldn't get around, and they were really fundamental limitations of kind of the strategy that we were using. So for that reason, and also to take Chrome accessibility and the support that we have for other platforms, which we do have support for your more traditional screen readers like JAWS on Windows and other screen readers on Windows and VoiceOver on Mac. And take that infrastructure and rebase ChromeVox on top of that. So we've been doing that for the past year and a half or so, and we have that running on Chrome OS in limited context now, and it's providing us with a great opportunity to kind of rethink the way ChromeVox works, and also to kind of have a faster cycle of feeding back improvements or enhancements that we want throughout our entire accessibility stack. So that's what's coming, and you can actually run it with a few disclaimers on Chrome OS now. So that's what's coming, and thank you so much for listening, and if there are any questions, we'd all be happy to take some. If you had something else to add.
Yeah, I'd like to mention that since we've been mentioning, so we have been showing speech today, but we have been also mentioning Braille a few times. So I just wanted to mention again that we actually do support both speech and Braille. So if you have a refreshable Braille display that connects to USB, you can connect it to the Chromebook device, and it will turn on ChromeVox, and you can use either the Braille display or the keyboard or the touchscreen, so navigate on the screen, and it will all be reflected both in spoken feedback and on the Braille display. Further, you can also edit and enter and edit text in any web page using either Computer Braille or Grade 2 or Unified English Braille if you prefer that. So this support also exists for most Braille displays on the market, and we are working on adding more Braille displays.